Sorry about that, but I wanted to not stop the video and just pause it so we could keep going. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do an equation using fractions first. So 6/5 t equals 1/3. So far, everything that we've done is called a one-step problem because you just have to do one step to get the variable by itself. Okay, we want to solve for t. Right now, t is being multiplied by 6/5. Well, what is the opposite or the inverse of multiply by 6/5? It is divide by 6/5. And we must do it on both sides. Okay, 6/5 divided by 6/5 is 1. We still have our t, which is the same as just t. 1/3 divided by 6/5. Hopefully you know your how to work with fractions. When you add or subtract fractions, you have to have a common denominator. That is not true with multiplying and dividing. The rule for dividing is keep, change, flip. Dividing of fractions, I should say. So 1/3 stays, the divide becomes multiply, the 6/5 becomes 5/6. Now it's super easy. 1 times 5 equals 5. 3 times 6 equals 18. Our answer is t equals 5/18. Okay, to check ourselves, plug it back into the original equation. 6/5 times 5/18. Does it equal 1/3? We are checking. You can go straight across, and 6 times 5 is 30, and 5 times 18, don't know off the top of my head, and then you would reduce that, and it should equal 1/3. But hopefully you remember about cross cancel when you're multiplying fractions. 5 divides into 5 once, and 5 divides into 5 once. This has to be done on a diagonal. Then we have 6 and 18. 6 divides into 6 once. 6 divides into 18 3 times. So now it's like 1/1 times 1/3. Well, that is 1/3, and that does equal what the original equation said. So that means that we know that our answer is correct. Okay, I'm going to do this one. U divided by 3 equals -5. So this is fractions and negatives in this problem. First off, one thing about u over 3 or any variable over a denominator is that it can be written as a fraction times the variable, okay? Because it's as if you have 1u divided by 3. Well, you can take out the 1/3 and it's still 1/3 times u, as long as the u is staying on top or it's staying as a whole number. That might help you in some situations. In this case, what I would do, the easiest thing, the way to think about it, u is being divided by 3. What's the opposite of divide by 3? It's times 3. Okay? And if you put u over 3 and you times it by the whole number 3, any whole number can be a fraction by putting a 1 on the bottom. And remember our cross cancel, these become 1, and so you are left with u by itself, or 1u. Okay? Same as u. So we got rid of the 1/3 by timesing by 3. And we do it on the other side. -5 times +3 equals -15. That should be our answer. We can plug it back in to check. -15 divided by 3. Does it equal -5? Well, 15 divided by 3 is 5, and a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So we know we did that correctly. Okay. Quick pause to remind you, this is Grace Danek. If you need me for tutoring or questions or want to see other videos, give me a call or an email or a text. I'd be happy to help you for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. All right, let's do Negative 9 equals negative 2 times n. Well, we need n by itself. It is being multiplied by negative 2. What is the opposite of multiply by negative 2? Divide by negative 2. Both sides. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. We still have our n. We could just call that n. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, or we could say 4.5, and negative divided by negative is positive. Okay. So if we plug this back into our original, something is not right with that problem. Negative 2 times, duh, I'm sorry. It is correct. I don't know what I was thinking there. I was saying things backwards. So you always have to check your work. Does 2 times 4.5 equal 9? Yes, it does. And a negative times positive is a negative. So there you go. Okay, those are pretty much one-step problems. I'm going to do a couple of two-step problems, and then I'm going to show distributing, and that's going to be it for this video, which is pretty much beginner equations, 6th, 7th grade. Okay, 2x plus 4 equals 14. Solving for the x. So a couple things have to happen. We have to get rid of this plus 4, and we have to get rid of the 2 that's being multiplied by x. You must get rid of whatever is loose first. I call this loose if it's an add or subtract to the variable. It's not as closely attached as the 2 that's being multiplied by, so you want to do that last. If anything is multiplied or divided by the variable, make that the last thing that you do. Get rid of anything loose. Plus 4 is loose. The opposite of plus 4 is minus 4. Cancels out, becomes 0, and we're left with our 2x on the left side. The right side is 14 minus 4, which is 10. Still have to get the x by itself. It is being multiplied by 2. What is the opposite of multiply by 2? It's divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. We still have our x. It's the same as just saying x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. That should be our answer. We plug it back into the original to check. 2 times 5 plus 4 equals 14. Is this true? Well, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 4 does equal 14. So we know that we did this problem correctly. Okay. How about negative 2x minus 10 equals negative 90? Need x by itself. Get rid of what is loose first. There's a minus 10. The opposite is plus 10. Do that on both sides. Negative 2x equals negative 80. Negative 90 plus 10 gives us negative 80. We need x by itself. It's being multiplied by negative 2. What do? We divide by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. So we're left with x, and over here we have negative 80 divided by negative 2. Well, 80 divided by 2 is 40. Negative divided by negative is positive. So that is our answer. We can plug it back into the original to check our work, or check that our answer works in the original equation. 2 times 40 is negative 80 because it's negative 2. If we have negative 80 and we take away 10 more, we do come to a total of negative 90, and so they both equal. And that means we did the problem correctly. Okay. Like I said, negatives, you need to know how to work with them, adding, subtracting, multiplying. And I have 2 videos on my YouTube channel about rational numbers, The first one is adding and subtracting negatives, and the second one is a part 1 and a part 2. The second one is multiplying and dividing negative numbers. Okay, now we're going to show distributing with fractions and decimals and negatives. Okay, 1/3 times x plus 4 equals 30. X plus 4 is in parentheses. They cannot be combined. So this number that's attached to the front parenthesis, it is immediately in front of the parenthesis. That means it times, take 1/3 and times it by the items inside there. Since they can't be combined, you have to apply the timesing of the 1/3 to each item inside the parentheses. So you end up with 1/3 x. 1/3 times 4 is 4/3. Okay? Any number that is a whole number can be made a fraction by putting a 1 on the bottom, multiply across, and that's how you get your 4/3. Okay, so that's how I got that. All of that equals 30. Okay, fractions, don't be scared. They're not as hard as they look. Get rid of what is loose first. So that's a plus 4/3. I'm going to do minus 4/3 on both sides. Okay, so this is going to go away. I'm going to be left with 1/3 x. 30 minus 4/3. Well, there's a few different ways to do this, but I would choose to put 30, because when you add or subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. So I'm going to make 30 into 90 over 3 and minus my 4/3. Let's see, did I do that correctly? 9 divided by 3 is 3 and 0. Yes. So 90 minus 4, okay, so when you're adding subtracting fractions, you keep the denominator and you only do the operation with the top numbers. So my answer will have a 3 on the bottom. 90 minus 4 is 86 over 3. Okay, don't worry about reducing or simplifying at this point. Just do all the work first. Okay, we want x by itself. It's being multiplied by 1/3. Well, a couple things we could do. We can divide by 1/3 because that's the opposite of times by 1/3. We also can times by 3 like we did on an earlier problem, but guess what? 1/3 divided by 1/3, you have to do keep, change, flip. So you end up doing 1/3 times 3 even if you've written it as divide by 1/3. Okay, so whichever you can remember. If you multiply by 3 right away, you're fine. If you want to think of dividing by 1/3, that's fine, as long as you remember the rule, keep, change, flip. So you're going to end up timesing by 3. So for me, on this side, I'm just going to write times 3, okay? Because it's the same as that. Don't let it confuse you. Okay, 1/3 divided by 1/3 is 1. Still have my x. So x equals, well, my 3 can be put into a fraction, if that helps you to think of that. Remember, cross cancel. These cancel out to be 1. I'm left with an answer of 86. Okay, let's plug it in and see if that's right. 1/3 times x plus 4 equals 30. Well, we're checking if 86 is plugged in for x. 86 plus 4 is 90, isn't it? And 1/3 of 90 does equal 30, so we know that we did that correctly. All right, maybe just one more problem like that. Let's just do decimals here. 0.2 times x plus 8 equals 42. We have to distribute. It's called distribute when you take the number outside of the parentheses and apply it to each number inside the parentheses. This should be 1.6, but I'm going to double check by doing 0.2 times 8 on my calculator, and it is 1.6. okay? So 0.2 times x is just 0.2x. 0.2 times 8 is 1.6. Now, trying to get x by itself. Well, get rid of what is loose first. It's a plus 1.6. I'm going to minus 1.6 on both sides. That goes away, so I'm left with, because it became 0, that's why it goes away. I'm left with 0.2x, and I have 42 minus 1.6. You can certainly do this on your calculator, but hopefully you would also know how to do this method. And if I did that correctly, you should get 40.4. Let's just do it on here. 42 minus 1.6, 40.4. Terrific. Need x by itself. One more step. It's being multiplied by 0.2. So I'm going to divide by 0.2 in order to make that become a 1, because 1x is the same as x. Divide by 0.2 over there, so I divide by 0.2 over here. 40.4 times the 0.2 is 8.08. All right, let's check it and make sure. Go into my original problem, plugging in 8.08. 8.08 plus 8 equals 42. I sure hope this is right because I did not test it out before now. 8, well, obviously that's 16.08 times 0.2. So here's an example of something went wrong and we have to figure out, I bet you guys may have, no. So this is one where I would have to go back and check step by step what went wrong. 0.2x, 1.6, 42, subtract 1.6, make sure 42 minus 1.6 is 40.4. We divide by 0.2 because it was times by 0.2, divide by 0.2. You guys probably already saw my mistake, didn't you? This should be 202. How about that? So that's why this checking method is so important, because you can catch your problems, your mistakes. Let me just try this again. 40.4 divided by 0.2. I think I may have hit multiply. Okay, so I correct that is 202. Now I'm going to plug in 202, not 8.8. Okay, 202, well, 202 plus 8, I know right away that that's a 210. Although I better be careful because I'm making some other mistakes, but yes, I know that's correct. So now let me do 210 times 0.2. And sure enough, I get 42 as my answer, which is what we wanted to make happen because the original was a 42 for the answer. Okay, so, well, that was a good example of how to check our work. And don't feel bad. Mistakes are, if you look at my sign up here, mistakes are expected, respected, inspected, and corrected. So even your teachers make mistakes. Okay, I think that's it. Let me know if you have questions. Be happy to talk to you about tutoring, and have a wonderful day.